All right, Gun Talk Hunt fans, today we are talking about deer recovery and a deer's reaction after the shot with Roy Hill from Brownells right now. All right, hey, welcome in Gun Talk Hunt fans. We are going to go up and we're going to be talking today. This is going to be a conversation because I think most people need to hear this. One, we need to find out what our guest is up to, Roy Hill. He joins us from Brownells.
Howdy, howdy. Good to be here.
Two, we're going to talk about some deer hunts, and we're going to talk about a deer's reaction to when it is hit. And it can help you recover the deer, knowing how that deer reacted when you shot it. So all that's coming up right now. But first, Gun Talk Hunt is brought to you by Benelli, Dominate the Skies, Springfield Armory, Smith & Wesson, Timney Triggers, the world's finest triggers, Silencer Central, Silence Delivered, and Brownells, serious about firearms since 1939, and they continue to hammer away. Roy Hill, welcome in, sir.
It's great to be here. Hopefully Brownells keeps hammering away so I get to keep doing stuff like this. So yeah,
exactly.
Rock and roll, baby.
Well, and you know, you're my favorite. Don't tell everybody over there, but you're my favorite person from there because if you guys aren't keeping up with Possum Fatback on Instagram, you're missing out on, I think, one of the best Instagram pages out there.
Oh, shucks. Well, thank you very much. Yeah. I started that just because I work with so many social media content creators, and I figured, I guess I need to know something about this Instagram stuff. And I just try to have fun with it. Literally, that's the whole purpose, is I just try to have fun. And apparently folks like it. So
they do love it. And you know, I love the post because you sent one out. You posted one, I think it was about a month and a half ago, where you were locking interlocking and shaking your head, and your lovely locks were flowing against another gentleman's.
Zeke Stout. Zeke, my buddy. Yeah, he's actually taller and bigger than me, so he had to scrunch down a little bit. But yeah, we both have the COVID werewolf hair going, and that's actually the second time we've done that. This time we used the music "Pour Some Sugar on Me" by Def Leppard. But the first one, which was actually a TikTok video, has "Careless Whisper."
Oh my gosh, that might even be better.
That one's just too hot for Instagram. You gotta see that.
It was like a hair high five. That's how I would liken it.
Oh yeah.
If you have hair long enough, my hair's just not long enough. It's it's real short, so I'd be just
my hair used to look like that, and of course COVID hit and folks quit doing the barbershop thing, and so I just let mine go. And I mean, here's the funny story. My wife says, "You need to get a haircut. You need to get a haircut." And then it got to a certain length, and she looked at me. She said, "Roy, keep the hair." I went, "Yes, ma'am."
Absolutely. If I can still go out and hunt and do everything, I will grow my hair out as long as it needs to be.
Yep.
No, it is a lovely mane.
Thank you.
So what have you been up to? Because I know there's, at Brownells, if guys are actually really keeping up on it, this is the time of the year, all around the clock. It's time to be on Brownells, but this year is something special.
There's all sorts of things going on here at Brownells. It's just, of course, the closer we get to SHOT Show, the crazier it gets and the more involved it gets. One of the things that, of course, happened just recently was our Black Rifle Friday event. We call it Black Rifle Friday here at Brownells. Yep. And there are a whole lot of really great deals and sales. One of the things that did happen on Black Rifle Friday is we brought out a new BRN 180 upper. And I didn't know if I could handle parts on this or not. There's certain restrictions, but I guess y'all can do your own thing. I wish I'd grabbed an upper, but basically our very popular BRN 180 upper, the only difference for the sport, we're calling it, is on the original BRN 180, the charging handle, just like the original AR 180, sticks up and out, kind of like a Z shape. And on the original AR 180s, that was fine, but that was in the 60s and 70s, and not a lot of folks were putting red dots and optics and stuff on rifles like AR 180s. So with our modern usage of the rifle, we found that old original gangsta style charging handle, which is cool, and just like the original, it does tend to sometimes interfere with certain types of optics and mounts. So our sport model, we made two changes to it. It's got a little short charging handle that
Okay.
sticks out not very far that will not impede or interfere with any mount. And then we've also removed the dust cover.
Oh,
So the
good.
dust cover on the ejection port is gone. Other than that, it's identical.
How many of us really use the dust cover? I guess if you were, in Arizona or something,
Right.
and dust is blowing and stuff like that, and get gunk in there, but I never do.
I hardly ever use the dust cover. To be perfectly honest, most of the time I forget it's on my ARs or my AR style guns. So yeah, if dust cover's not a big deal, and you want a BRN 180 upper optimized for modern optic uses, the sport's the way to go. If you want the original gangsta look, and because you can move the red dot up and down the Picatinny rail and find where it won't hit.
Right.
But some people want more freedom and flexibility in where they mount their red dot.
Right. But I find that a lot of guys are starting to go back into the nostalgic pieces, the more traditional layout of firearms. Springfield Armory just came out with their SA-35. I mean, that's not a new design.
Have you had a chance to shoot that one yet?
Oh yeah, I have. Of course,
okay, I figured you did. What do you think? Because I haven't got to touch one yet.
I love it. Like, I think the fit and feel, it fits my hands really nice, and it's a 9mm, so it shoots, and it holds like 15 rounds. So, what's not to love?
Right. Yeah, I had an original Browning that I eventually sold. I've got a permanent scar right here because I have kind of fat hands.
Are they racetracks?
Yeah, it's a little white racetrack where a Browning high power bit part of my flesh away once. So the original spur hammer doesn't work for me, but maybe this one will.
This one will. I think you'll like this one. I enjoyed it, but okay, let's get on to some hunting. Because hunting products, like if you're looking to buy right now hunting products on sale, good deals, Brownells is absolutely the place to go. What should guys be buying? What should they be looking for right now? Because whitetail season, in a sense, is kind of, it's kind of starting to dissipate. It's kind of hitting its end. You've got some late muzzleloader seasons that are going to be opening up. But in large part, January 15th seems to be about the cutoff.
Right.
So what should guys be looking for?
What guys should be looking for is right now, lots of rifle ammo is coming back into stock for us. So if you're looking for some hunting ammo, every day I play a little game. In fact, I'm going to play the game right now on my phone here, and I'm going to go to the Brownells website.
Yeah.
And I'm going to hit shop products, ammunition, rifle ammo, and special filters in stock. We have 63 different types of rifle ammo in stock, which is
kidding.
A heck of a lot better than what it was, say, about this time last year when it was like 4.
Yeah.
But yeah. So and the cartridges change all the time because a shipment will come in, it'll get on the shelf, it'll get bought, and then something else will come in.
Right. But that's a good idea if you haven't already learned your lesson, I think, I've kind of learned my lesson over the years, but reevaluate. The first of the year is a great time to do that. And if you actually, let's say you do it earlier December, mid-December, which we're in right now, take stock of your inventory and, okay, I'm low here. This is what I need to restock with. Stay at least a year ahead. Mm-hmm. And that's a good way to do it.
Right. Another thing I would be looking at is, especially if you're in a state where you can really rifle hunt, would be, do you need to upgrade any optics? We've got a pretty good selection of optics. We've also have the Brownells MPO, the Match Precision Optics. Yep. And right now, as far as deals, if you go to brownells.com, there's a top of the page in a big green banner. It says $30 off orders, 300 or more, and free shipping. So you just get your code. So you get $300. You can get 10% off, or of course, if you go over 3, because if you buy a good scope, dude, you're going to go over $300.
Yeah, easily.
So you get your $30 off, plus you get free shipping, and all you got to do is enter the code RTC when you check out.
Okay. Well, see, that's easy. That's easy to remember.
Yep.
If I'm, I would actually be looking right now for late season gear or anything like that. just prepare for next year. I mean, because you've got basically what you've done is you've got a whole season under your belt now, and you know where you're lacking. And so while it's fresh in your mind and there are deals to be had, now's the time to jump in there.
Now's the time. Plus, I mean, it's a Christmas present for yourself, right? Or hey, honey, I know what I want for Christmas. I'll just go ahead and get it. Okay.
Yep. Oh yeah, that's the way to do it. Hey, I'm gonna pause real quick right here and have a listen from our sponsors. Silencer Central. Now, if you want to buy a silencer or suppressor, whatever you care to call it, I really don't care. But Hiram Maxson did call it a silencer when they were first created. Just saying, it's on the patent. Silencer Central has you covered because you can order it from your house. Yep, you get all the paperwork, you get the fingerprints, they create the trust and all that good stuff. You fill it out, you send it in, and voila, what shows up to your door, but maybe a Banish 30, perhaps a Banish 45 for your pistol. But all of that can be found at silencercentral.com. Give them a look. Timney Triggers. New triggers from Timney are always, I don't care what anybody else says, they're always derived from the customer response. If you guys want a trigger and you yell loud enough, Timney Triggers listens to you, just like the dedicated CZ Model 457 rimfire trigger. The CZ 457 trigger is adjustable for pull weight and over travel. It's machined using state-of-the-art technology and features Timney's new sear engagement adjustment lock design for a more user-friendly experience. So find out more at timneytriggers.com. Okay, we're back. We're talking to Roy Hill from Brownells, and you know what? He has shot a deer this year. I'm still 0 for whoever knows how many deer. I've let pass. I've let walk. It kills me. I did pull the trigger on one, and I'll get into that here in a little bit. But Roy, I want to hear about your story. I want to hear.
Okay, sure.
I want to hear your muzzleloader story.
Right. I've been living in Iowa for about 10 years now, and my favorite season to hunt here is early muzzleloader. It happens in October. It's usually about the third week or so. It depends, of course, when the Iowa DNR sets the date. And when I hunt muzzleloader season, I understand and get guys who use some inline muzzleloaders with shotgun primers and scopes, and they're using sabots and they're making 200-yard shots. I get it. I understand it. I have nothing against that. Just whenever I hunt, I like to go old school. So I use real black powder. And my strategy every year is I start off the season with an 1853 infield rifle musket.
Oh my gosh!
Yeah, pure. You can see pictures on Instagram. I've got pictures of my deer with my rifled musket on it on Instagram. And then if I get one down early enough in the season, and here early muzzleloader season's only a week. It lasts 1 week.
That's right.
So, and if I hunt early, I can't hunt shotgun or modern gun season. So if I hunt early muzzleloader, I got to get a deer. So I have let deer walk in the past. I've also eaten tagged soup when I do that a lot of times.
That's my favorite meal this year.
Yeah, tagged soup. Yeah. But so I've taken a nice buck early muzzleloader season in the past. I've taken a pretty good buck, a nice buck. On public land last year, I had a 3-second encounter literally with the biggest buck I've ever seen in my life. And he was there for 3 seconds. But he popped out of the bushes 10 feet from me, and I couldn't even cock the hammer and raise the musket.
Yeah.
And he was there, and then he was gone, and I was just trembled.
Afterwards, when I have those type of encounters, like I'm a nervous wreck. Typically, I'm very even keel. Other guys who are listening to this who kind of know me are going to go, "You are not even keel on any deer." I get so excited. But I had a similar encounter, and it was on video, and I was shaking so bad that I wasn't on the gun. I was just watching, and I was videoing. Yeah. And this deer was just so frustrating because he was just on the other side of the fence.
Oh, he's on the wrong side of the property line. I've had that happen. But this year I got a nice fat Iowa doe. She was about a 50-yard shot. I do know some folks with farms, but there's a heck of a lot of farms in Iowa.
Yes.
Sometimes private land access is difficult to get. And so because of my limited time, a lot of times I just hunt a very small tract of public land. There's not a lot of public land in Iowa, but there is some. And if you scout it and you know it and you understand the deer patterns, there's a certain piece of public land I hunt near my house that I always every deer on. And like you said, in the past, I have let deer walk before, waiting on that Iowa giant, and then wind up with bag soup. So this year, it literally was the last day of the season. I had actually seen a buck, a nice buck, and missed him, fired a shot because, I mean, he just appeared out of nowhere about 60 yards away. I was standing. I didn't have any support, so I tried it.
Oh, man.
And I'm highly confident, and we'll talk about that in a second. I'm highly confident I didn't hit him at all. And we're talking about sight picture, and then I redid the sight picture with my rifle musket. Okay, yeah, I missed high, like 4 inches. But
you didn't bury that front post? You didn't bury that front post enough?
I didn't bury the front post enough. I went right over his back.
Yeah.
And then, I mean, like you were talking about, I could tell by his reaction. And it was the funniest thing because, of course, when I shoot my musket, I get this big cloud of gray smoke, so I can't see anything. And then the smoke clears, and I'm looking, and I'm looking, and I'm looking, and I don't see him. And I half step out from behind the tree, and what this buck had done is he had bounded forward and was standing and facing me with his ears up, looking at me, going, "Huh? What was that?"
Oh, no way.
So immediately I rip a paper cartridge, and I'm trying to, and I get to the point where I'm trying to put the percussion cap on it, and he decides, well, this is not a good situation, and he turns and he bounds away with his tail high.
Oh, and that's
so because he showed no flinch, he didn't jump, he didn't react, and he stood there and said, "What the heck was that?"
Yeah.
And then ran away quickly and bounding freely with his tail in the air. I figured, I did.
And that's one of the nice things about muzzleloaders is because a lot of times you can get a follow-up shot because they're just not sure about where that shot came from or what the noise was.
What it was.
And especially if you're working around some oil derricks or anything like that, there's all loud noises all the time. And so they're just thinking, it's just closer.
Right.
And let's just talk about deer reactions because that allowed you, once you saw, it allows you to get that second shot or potentially get that second shot, but it also helps you to know that I did not hit that deer. I don't need to pursue it. And I think a lot of guys kind of misunderstand deer reactions. And I had kind of an instance like that where my buddy, his kid shot one. It was quartering to him, which I would not recommend for a youth hunter who has a propensity to yank the trigger.
Yeah.
And he said, "Well, no, the deer jumped, the deer mule kicked," and I was like, "Did it mule kick or did it just lunge forward?" Which turns out he completely misses the deer.
Right.
And the deer lunges forward to take off, or the deer, kind of loads up and takes off. And because you got to ask, what did the deer do after? How was the deer running? Was the tail tucked? There's all these little cues that you can take off the deer's posture.
Right. And with especially with, say, a shotgun slug or a my big old heavy 5.77 mini ball.
Good night.
A lot of times you can actually hear it's an audible. It's like bow hunting. You hear that loud slap of the arrow hitting. It's more of a meaty, watery thump. You can hear an impact.
Yeah.
With a shotgun slugger or my big old muzzleloader mini ball. But I mean, the first buck I ever shot in Iowa with my muzzleloader, he was about 100 yards. And I knew I hit him because, as you said, he mule kicked. His back feet went straight in the air as though he were trying to kick something away from him. And because it was a 100-yard shot, I missed the vital area by like 3 inches. So it was back more of a liver shot. But he was a good center hit because he didn't move very far. His tail was tucked. And as he stood there, his hindquarters started to kind of dip in. And I said, "Oh, my gosh, I hit him. I got him. I got this one."
Yeah. And that's a great indicator. Like typically liver shot deer or further back gut shot deer, a lot of times they're not going to go very far.
No,
because they're processing and they will mule kick if hit back. It's not only those, because I think we get tuned into these hunting shows that they shoot them with the arrow, perfect center shot, they mule kick, they run off and they're gone.
Right.
But gut shot deer, they don't do that. They will run like 10, 15 yards and stop, and they're kind of processing what happened.
Right.
Because the blood. Go for it.
Oh, so I was going to say, yeah, that's been my experience. They don't go very far. And on the doe I got, it was kind of a complicated situation that my doe this year, because there were two does. I was sitting in my little bush on my stool, and I looked up. I felt a disturbance in the forest, and I turned my eyes right about 50 yards down the hill. I mean, you know what it is. I mean, you don't know what tells you. Something just tells you, hey, there's a critter over there, and you look, and you haven't heard anything, and you haven't smelled it. You just somehow know.
I mean, you've hunted those woods enough. You kind of know, like, there's something in the area, and it's moving towards me.
It's moving towards me, and you just it's your sixth sense or your instinct or caveman instincts.
Oh yeah.
And there's one doe looking straight at me. And then there's another doe broadside just behind her feeding in the grass. I said, okay, I'll shoot the broadside one. And I fire and I get the cloud of gray smoke. And I see one deer tail up, bounding away to the left. And the other deer is just gone. Gone.
Okay.
And I say, uh-oh. So I sit there and waited 15 or 20 minutes. I couldn't wait that long because it was really right at sunset. And so I tried to trail the deer I saw go off to the left. And in Iowa, if you're chasing a wounded animal, it is legal to go onto private property without permission to try to retrieve the deer.
Wow.
But you cannot take your gun with you. So I loaded up my musket again and laid it on in the fence line under some leaves. And I did, the circle pattern all the way out, looking for blood trail, can't find her. Starting to get a little worried. I go back on the right side and I do like 25 yards into the woods, 30 yards into the woods, circle 50 yards, starting to get really depressed. And I just start walking back to where I was shooting from, because I also did the check for hair and blood on the ground, didn't find any. And my problem is I forgot I was using a 58 caliber muzzleloader, because instead of looking 20 yards into the woods, I should have been looking about 7.
Yeah.
Because
she
bounded up into the tree line 7 yards away. Boom, done.
No kidding.
Yeah.
Jeez.
Yeah. So,
all right, we're going to jump in here with another break and a word from our sponsors. Brownells. Yeah, they're serious since 1939, but they have a whole host of folks in there that are serious about firearms because they are active in it. And if you're ready to hit the field, maybe the range, or maybe even the pheasant fields, it's upland game hunting season, so it's time to get that ammo in. They've got all your ammo needs covered. Okay, so go to brownells.com/ammunition to find in stock. I repeat, they have ammo in stock currently at brownells.com/ammunition. Find 5.56, 223, 6.5 Grindle, 17 HMR, 12 gauge, 20 gauge. Whatever you need, they got it over at brownells.com/ammunition. Hodgdon Powder Company. Those folks are passionate about gunpowder. And if you think that gunpowder is just gunpowder, well, you haven't visited HodgdonReloading.com, because they've got powder for everything. And their reloading data center is expansive. And I've been playing with this lately, and it's actually really interesting to me because I'm such a novice at reloading. But you can go into the reloading center, and what you do is you select a cartridge, then it'll select a bullet weight, and then you select your powder, and then it'll spit out the powders within that family that you can use to load that one. You select your powder, and it'll spit out the data that you need to perfect your cartridges. So for your next hunt or your next reloading project, visit HodgdonReloading.com. All right, we're back. We're talking with Roy Hill of Brownells, and he just told us a little story about his doe and how he found it, and deer's reaction to a shot. I lost a deer this year.
Yes.
It's my first deer I've lost, and if you hunt long enough, it's going to happen.
Yes.
And I'm not saying this is the only one because I'm such a great shot. That's not what I'm saying.
Right.
I hunt very open spaces, and so it's easier to see and understand where they're going to go, terrain changes, and everything like that. I'm sure it would have been a lot more difficult had I not seen the deer start tipping over in 250 yards or whatever it is.
Right.
But I hit that deer, and so when the first shot that hit, I hit this deer twice.
Mm.
Was low and back. And how I know that is because I've had the deer's reaction. And I only know that is because I stayed in the scope. I see a lot of guys, and I saw it twice this year happen.
Right.
They shoot and they look up.
Yeah.
Like you're getting the best view possible through that optic.
Right. And you miss the reaction from going from here to here. Yeah.
Yes,
Yeah.
you're gonna miss the reaction, and you listen for that sound, but sometimes you just can't hear it. Maybe the wind's blowing a little bit harder, but the deer kind of lunged forward, and it stopped, and it kind of hunkered down. So I was like, okay, I know that's a little far back, and I know it's low, and so your next inkling, put one in, and I'm judging off of where my buddy's making the calls because I missed the first shot, and he said I was shooting high when I was shooting low. And so I adjusted, and the deer took a kind of rocked back a little, and I was like, oh, you're going to tip over. So I went ahead and put one in him and hit low shoulder, like low forward shoulder.
Oh, goodness.
And how I know that is, again, he wheeled. So he wheeled around to his left. And then, man, he took off after that, broke shoulder and all, jumped 4 fences.
Good grief.
I
tough critters.
Yeah, they are. They're adaptable. You know, and that goes, and I've told this story a little bit before, but in Oklahoma, you can't just pursue actively and like you can in Iowa.
Right.
So I've got to call landowners, and the place that he had jumped onto was, it was government-owned property, United States Air Force. So I had to call Air Force Base. Finally got it, and he ended up, and this is how these deer are smart. So in the time that I was on the phone with the Air Force Base, and we had guys looking at him. We had like 4 or 5 guys surrounding a 1 square mile property that is wide open native grasslands. And one guy saw him from the point where I jumped on the phone call. This is all in a 7-minute span, 7 to 10 minute span. I will get permission to go out and retrieve the deer. So I get over the fence, walk 100 yards into the property, and my buddy calls and says, "Hey, he's behind you." How's he behind me? This is flat ground. There's only one little ravine.
Right.
So he had jumped 2 more fences.
Oh my goodness.
And got behind us and was on our lease. And then he made it back to the breaks, which all rugged terrain and everything.
Right.
So he ended up jumping 6 fences.
Good
And covered, I would say he covered over a mile.
Yeah.
Or more. But I know, that deer is dead somewhere. I cannot find him.
Hit him twice. Yeah. Yeah. I think I lost the first time I lost a deer, I was still living in Arkansas and hunting real thick cover. And it was a doe. Shot her with a 308. Literally, my deer stand was the end of my sidewalk, and my backstop was my driveway. No kidding. So she crossed the driveway about 50 yards up. I shot her. I went inside the house, made a cup of coffee, whatever, hung out.
Oh, that's nice.
And then walked back out to go. And I found the blood trail, found the pool of blood where she had bedded down, but I hadn't waited. I probably waited 5 minutes to not long enough.
Right.
And she got up and bounded in. And at the time we had 30 heavily wooded acres with a big chunk of greenbrier jungle on it.
Oh my gosh.
I spent the next 8 hours wearing myself to exhaustion tracking this deer, trying to find the deer. And then I spent all day the next day. That was a Saturday. And then I spent all day Sunday trying to find the deer. And then about a week and a half later, my dog started, bringing up legs, and then they brought up the head as the deer had gotten into the thickest cover it could find and died. And then as it started to decompose, my dog started, "Hey, look, here's your deer." Yeah.
I'm bringing it back in pieces. There's nothing left, but here you go. You did your job, but you just weren't able to find it.
And I know it's part of hunting. It happens. If you hunt long enough, it will happen to you. It sucks so much.
It's awful. I mean, sleepless nights.
Yeah.
Just trying to figure out. I hunted the area where he was at because I was like, if I hit him as low as I think I probably did, there's a potential that he could survive.
Right.
And understanding when to back out, when to not push him, when to not pressure him is everything. And I think I pushed this deer a little too hard. And which eventually
I lost too hard.
Yeah, which I think eventually cost me my chance to get back on the deer. Because I pushed him hard early because he was in wide open spaces. And if I could just get a shot, get a clear shot, get a good shot. But he was already ramped up, he was chasing.
In wide open space like that, like open grassland. I mean, I think that's a pretty good tactic because, like you said, you don't think there's that many places to hide in wide open grassland, but the deer they grow up out there. That's their world.
Right. And honestly, once he gets in that tall grass, the grass is realistically it's up to my waist. Or higher.
Lay down and be invisible.
Lay down, he could be invisible because I actually had a deer do that. So I was driving back to camp, and it was about 10 o'clock in the morning. And the deer are so wicked smart. It's absolutely amazing. That's why I love chasing them, is because they are so intelligent. One buck was chasing a doe. I saw him, and another buck. I mean, out in the middle of an open field, a CRP field. He just lays down, and I couldn't see him from the road. Driving through, couldn't see him. Unbelievable creatures, but understanding when you can pursue and knowing the terrain really does help. But it's all about the initial reaction.
And you got to pay attention. You got to look for that. Of course, I mean, inexperienced hunters, I mean, they just don't know. I mean, you can watch all the videos you want, but until you're there and it's live and you're the person who pulled the trigger. Like on the buck I missed the very first evening. I mean, he was a nice 8-point. 60 yards. I mean, it was one of those picture perfect scene from a movie things. He stepped out of the tree line. The sun's at the perfect angle. It's gleaming on you like, right. Yeah, the angels in heaven are going, oh,
yeah. Here he is. Shoot him now, Roy.
Click, and I'm steady. Boom, cloud of smoke. And as I said, he was standing there looking at me. And then when he ran off, he showed no signs of being hit. I found no hair, no blood. And then when I went back after I fruitlessly searched for any sign at all, I went back to exactly where I was standing and I recreated the sight picture in my mind. And the front sight was too high. I was excited because all I could see was the sunlight glinting off this thing's antlers. And I didn't have the front sight far enough down in the V notch. So I went over.
That's a frustrating, because you work so hard. I mean, and you're doing a true traditional muzzleloader.
I hadn't, it'd been last year since I got one. So actually I didn't get one last year in early muzzleloader. I had to go to Georgia to get one. So
you still got one.
I still got one this year.
Yeah, but it's a learning lesson because deer hit high shoulders, or a lot of times what they'll do is, and you'll find them very quickly, is they'll bury those front legs, and they do the bulldozer is what I call it. They'll plant those front legs into the ground, and they'll just drive, with those rear legs. Deer shot, further back into that hip area, that the hindquarters. My son hit one a little far back. Turns out that my dial turrets were off. And perfect. It was going to be a perfect shot, high shoulder
elevation
shot.
Perfectly. You just had windage bad. Yep.
Windage was bad. And that's on me. And that's the part of, checking your equipment. But that sucker dropped immediately. And my recommendation on that is follow-up shot immediately.
Right.
Follow-up shot because, they're going to stand up on those front hooves, those front legs, and they'll start, kind of army crawling off. And, if they get into real thick brush, it might be hard to find them.
Right. And it is also possible. I mean, I've seen this with deer, and I've also seen it with feral hogs. It's a clean chest area kill shot, but the critter just has enough oomph. It turns and runs.
Mm-hmm.
And for whatever reason, you don't hear the crash. You don't hear the sound of the animal falling. And if you're in thick enough brush, you just don't find the animal. It's a good, clean, ethical shot. The deer's down quickly. The brush is just so thick, and there's so many ways the animal can go. And a lot of times, even the thick brush makes it almost impossible to find. I mean, sometimes there's not even really a blood trail.
Right. And that's what's, these 6.5 Creedmoors and a lot of the, the 243s and stuff like that. There might not be a lot of blood trailing that's going to be done like there would be on a 300 Win Mag. I mean, it's just how it is. And I know a lot of these guys, and I'm one of them, that I love the deer meat, so I'm going to try to preserve as much as I can. And you might not get that blood trail. It's just not. It's probably not going to happen.
Right. The deer I got last year in Georgia, I got with a 6mm Creedmoor Howa 1500 I built with parts from Brownells.
So cool.
She maybe went, and again, it was thick wood situation. There was a logging road, and she was on the logging road when I fired, and then she darted into the thick woods, and she went maybe 30 yards, maybe.
Yeah.
And I mean, she was done. It was a good shot. Didn't go very far. There was not a single drop of blood on the ground anywhere. Not a single drop.
That's funny you say that, because I took a buddy out hunting, and he had hunted with a 300 Win Mag. Is his go-to, because he's like, it opens up the hole, and I'm like, that's a big hole. I mean, it's a little bit much, but whatever. So one morning I was like, well, why don't you go with me? You can shoot my gun, and I'll just sit with you and scout with you. And he ended up, and he wasn't ready for the trigger, because the trigger on my firearm is a little bit lighter.
Yeah.
And he wasn't quite ready for it.
I'm a trigger snob. Yep.
Yeah, I am. I love a good trigger. I can't lie. He misses the deer, and I was like, he goes, oh, I missed. And I go, rack another one. Hurry up. He's still there. He gets a shot on it, and I'm like, okay, you hit him. Like, he was a quartering away, perfect, right behind the ribs, connected with the offside shoulder, done. And then the fiasco with my deer actually happened after that, because we were stepping out of the blind, and his deer story is actually hilarious. I need to have him on the show to tell you about it. But prime time, I'll just give you a teaser. I'm going to have him on.
Awesome.
To tell this story. But the teaser is that prime time, like, we're talking 7:30 in the morning. The deer are starting to come out, and they're already out. They're moving around a little bit more. I've got to go pee.
That's the way it always happens. Yeah.
I'm like, okay, just step. I was like, just step directly behind us.
Right.
He steps out away from our spot, exposing himself to the deer world.
Right.
And we hadn't seen anything yet. And so I get up and I kind of ease around, and I look, and I was like, dude, there's a buck looking right at us. And he goes, you got to be kidding. So he has to stop midstream and get back into position. Anyway, oh my gosh. There was a whole lot that goes into that one, but it was funny, because I was like, there's no way he's going to believe me. There's no way he's going to believe me that there's a deer right there watching him and he could shoot it.
Oh my gosh.
But anyway, he hit the deer. We go up to get it. And I was like, oh yeah, your deer's right there, 10 yards away from where he shot it. Because one, it was a great shot. He made a perfect shot on it, but he was blown away about the lack of blood and the cleanliness of the animal.
Oh yeah.
And he was like, I just don't. He goes, I can shoot a deer with a 300 Win Mag exactly the same. It travels the same amount of space, but I'm left with like picking up some pieces.
Right.
And I'm like, shot placement, man. That's what it's all about.
Shot placement. Yeah. And then, like my rifle musket's 58 caliber, shoots a 570 grain mini ball, but because it's black powder and it's only about 1,100 feet per second or so, I typically don't get a whole lot. I mean, there's a 58 caliber hole all the way through the deer.
Right.
There's not really that much of a blood trail.
Right.
Yeah, because it's low velocity, but
it's tough, and it's tougher. It's got to be tough on you. It's got to be hard finding deer with that gun. If they pick up tail and run, that's got to be tough.
Every deer I know I've hit with that one, I've recovered.
Okay. Well, you're going to definitely hear it.
Oh, yeah. Usually if it's at least 100-yard shot, oh, yeah, I can absolutely hear impact and go, yep, I hit that one. But this one was only like 50 yards and downhill, so I got echo. So I really didn't. But I've never hit a deer and not recovered it. The longest one ever ran on me was maybe 50 yards, maybe. But if I've never hit one and not recovered it with my infield rifle musket. That's one of the benefits of having, a 58 caliber.
A 58 caliber. Yeah.
Great projectile.
Yeah. No kidding.
Yeah.
Well, Roy, thanks for joining us, man. And it's an interesting conversation.
Oh, heck yeah.
To understand deer reactions to impacts.
Oh yeah.
I mean, we could talk forever about this because we both have stories about it, and I've got more stories than I care to talk about, but it's all serves a purpose. It's education, and just being out there really does a lot. I mean, if you're out there, you're gonna get these type of scenarios, and just pay attention to the impact.
Right. And for any rookie hunters or going to become hunters soon, do as much research as you can. Just realize it's different when you get out in the field. And there are things, and I'm in my 50s, and I've been hunting since I was like 10.
Yeah.
I learned something just about every season. I encounter a situation I've not encountered before.
If not every hunt. I mean, and that's the beauty of hunting, is because there's not one person out there that knows it all. There's a lot of people with some great knowledge.
Yes.
And pay attention to those folks, man. But Roy, thank you for joining us, man.
It's always awesome. Hope we get to come back sometime soon.
Hey, give them your Instagram one more time, and then where they can go to check out all Brownells stuff.
Okay, to check out the Brownells stuff, go to www.brownells.com, just like it says up here, brownells.com. Brownells also has a really robust YouTube channel and Instagram page. And I don't know if our channel's still banned or not. We were even on TikTok for a while, so you can check that out. And my personal page is Possum Fatback. I'm an old guy from Arkansas. No O on the front of Possum. It's the hillbilly spelling, Possum, Possum Fatback on Instagram.
It's a great channel. I hope you guys go check it out. But as always, guys, keep those muzzles pointed in a safe direction and always be on the hunt.